in the land of Palestine. I would like to start my Jum'ah by saying نسأل الله عز وجل أن يرحم قتلانا. نسأل الله عز وجل أن يتقبلهم شهداء, as there were about 232 people killed throughout the last 11 days of the Israeli invasion to the land of Gaza. And there are almost 13 people who were killed from the West Bank. Among those who were killed in Gaza were 65 children, 39 women, 17 seniors, and there was about 1,900 people who were injured throughout this assault on a small geographical area that is so tense and dense in the population. 90 of those people who were injured are in critical conditions, and 560 of those injured are unfortunately children. 380 of those are women, and 91 of them are seniors. There are about 450 buildings were demolished and destroyed completely throughout this assault and invasion of the Israelis army on the Gaza Strip. 6 of those buildings, unfortunately, were hospitals providing immediate remedy and a desperate treatment for the people of Gaza who are dense in population, already struggling with the corona pandemic and with the lack of the necessities of the medications in their facilities. 75 people, 75,000 were expelled from their homes and migrated from their homes within Gaza to different locations, primarily to the schools of UNRWA, to the United Nations schools. 285,000 are staying in the schools, despite of the pandemic, despite of the difficult conditions we're living in right now. 9 medical facilities were destroyed also. This is what the assault have resulted in Gaza. 3 mosques were completely destroyed. 40 mosques and a church were partially destroyed. And the center of 33 news agencies were also destroyed. 68 schools were partially destroyed, and 490 agricultural facilities were destroyed. 7 factories, simple factories, were also destroyed. This is the result of this aggressive and very vicious attack of one of the most powerful armies on earth to a small geographical area that is so dense in population, 2 million living in a very small geographical area. We say to Allah Azza wa Jal, may Allah have rahmah on those shuhada and those who have killed, and may Allah Azza wa Jal have rahmah on them. And may Allah Azza wa Jal give shifa to those who are injured. And may Allah Azza wa Jal, the Mighty, relieve and release those who are captive. And for the fairness, we need to acknowledge that there were about 13 Israelis were killed, and about 200 or so were injured as a result of this nonsense, provocative action from the Israeli government. And I wanted to start by thanking every person who have stood up for justice, stood up for the aggression and the occupation and the expelling of civilians and the continuous human rights violation of the apartheid of the Israeli government. We say to every person who have stood with injustice, whether by picking up the phone and calling on an official of the government or an MP representative or MPP, or have sent an email, or have shared a factual information with others around it, or have participated in a demonstration with my conservation on how demonstrations should be conducted, keeping in mind that we need not to risk the public safety, and keeping in mind that when we go outside demonstrations, keeping the health guidelines, we need to be clear on what message are we sending outside. Meaning to say, we should not be chanting with the slogans that are not understood by the general public. And we should be presenting facts. We should be having representatives who speak on behalf of the crowd and send a clear message to the media and to the officials and the governments to inform them of why we're angry and what we're demonstrating for and what actions needs to be taken. So I encourage my younger brothers, especially sisters, who are going outside to demonstrate, to rethink how they do their demonstrations so it will be more effective and safe to the general public, and will do the job that you have stood up for in this matter. And we need to acknowledge an important issue. Now we do have and we do see a shift in the paradigm. There's no longer, we need no longer to accept the narrative from the officials of our government and the governments of the whole world that Israel, the army of Israel, has the right to defend itself. This is a false narrative. This is a false statement. And I say shame on all the politicians who know the fact, but they continue to distort it and present it in the wrong way. وإذا قيل لهم ماذا أنزل ربكم قالوا أساطير الأولين ليحملوا أوزارهم وأوزار الذين يضلونهم إلى يوم القيامة. When the people of Quraysh found that they are unable to hide the truth of the Quran, when they were unable to prevent people from accepting the fact of Islam, the fact of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla, they found that they have no other choice but to distort the clear message of the Quran by spreading rumors and distorting people from listening to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when the people will ask them what is going on and what the Prophet is conveying, they would say asatir al-awwalin, the stories of those who have come from the past. Now the human rights reports are showing clearly what is happening in Palestine, what is happening in Gaza, this small geographical area that has been living under siege for so many years. Shame on those politicians whom we have sent letters to them and emails, and they respond back to us saying that Israel has the right to defend itself. Shame on you! Shame on you! Because you are a hypocrite. You are a liar because you know the truth and you're hiding the truth. And I'm saying that here in this member, and I say clearly and loudly. Shame on our Prime Minister for not taking a clear stand on what is happening in Palestine. Shame on your Prime Minister. You have demonstrated to be a person who looks for justice and stands for justice. You have failed the justice in Palestine. Shame on you. And if you do not change your perception, your narrative, then you will continue to carry this shame afterwards. We need to change the narrative and say clearly what is happening in Palestine is a genocide. It's an apartheid regime that is constantly and systematically cleansing the original people of Palestine and expelling them and relocating them to another locations and provoke the whole Muslim Ummah by invading the shrine of Islam and Masjid al-Aqsa. Enough is enough. Enough distortion to the truth. Enough distortion to the facts that are being presented constantly by authentic reports, by individuals who have taken upon themselves to look for the truth and speak the truth. And I send my support and congratulations to the Andy Party who have spoken the truth. Yes, they have spoken the truth. And we need to see more people standing behind them and supporting them. And I do stand behind my MP of this area, our brother Green Matthew, for what he have said and what he have done and presented to the facts that so many MPs have shied away from presenting and speaking about. It's about the time we acknowledge, and we need to avoid the perceptions we have built about the power of the Israeli lobby in the West. When we were children, we grew up listening to a story that has a value, a moral. An elephant, since birth, was attached to a chain with an iron ball. And whenever the elephant wants to free himself from that chain, would not be able to because the chain is so heavy. and the ball is difficult to move. After many trials, that elephant gave up the facts, and the owners of this elephant replaced that ball with a lighter, the iron ball with a lighter ball. But the perception that this elephant have built continued to say, I'm unable to resist this chain and the heavy iron ball. The narrative has changed. Walillah alhamd. We need to change the perception. The power of the truth is more than any power of any advocacy group on the earth. It's more powerful than the Israeli lobby or any other lobbies that be distorting the truth. It's about time the general public, the mass, you as a grassroots individuals all over the world to stand up and say enough is enough. Let's end the occupation. Let's give the right of return to the refugees. Let's stop the continuous human rights violation. Let's continue to stand up for the rights of those whose rights have been deprived, to those whose homes have been demolished. Let's stand up for the rights of those who are the basics of need of their living has been deprived from them. Let's stand up for the people of Gaza who have been living in siege for so many years. Despite of all that, they were able to stand up and defend themselves and defend their religious values and defend their rights. That's what we need to do right now. We need to have an uprise from the grassroots against those who are sitting on the top and say to them, shame on you. It's about the time that you change your perception and stand for the truth. We're not asking you to stand for any party. The conflict is not between Arabs and Israelis. No. The conflict is about the human rights. The only occupation that exists on earth is still in Israel. The state of Israel in 1948 was established on the demolishing of 475 villages, expelling over 800,000 civilian Palestinians who are scattered in the nearby countries and all over the world. And the second invasion of the Israelis in 1967 had captured most of the Palestinian lands. This is what we need to talk about. This is what the facts that need to be presented. And alhamdulillah, there are MPs who are Muslims and non-Muslims alike who are standing up and saying, these are the factual facts that needs to be presented and need to be presented to the public. And we need to act upon them. And we call upon our government to stop this false narrative and at the same time to stop dealing the arms with the state of Israel until they stop their aggression and aggressive dealing with the Palestinians who are living in lands. Let's stop the selling of arms support to the Israeli government. Let's stop, let's question them, let's say to them, what are you doing? What are you doing to the Palestinians? And I said in my previous khutbah, we need not to see another crisis with Floyd so that the whole world would realize that there's discrimination that is happening in the land of Palestine. They are standing up and retaliating, not because they feel like it, not because they enjoy it, but because their whole world is not paying attention to them. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Let's wake up. Let's exercise the justice. Otherwise, we will be all liable for this. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ نُوحٍ مِنْ بَعْدِ نُوحٍ وَكَفَى بِرَبِّكَ بِذُنُوبِ عِبَادِهِ خَبِيرًا بَصِيرًا. Allah Azza wa Jal is warning us in advance. فَكَأَيٍّ مِنْ قَرْيَةٍ أهلكناها وهي ظالمة فبئر معطلة وقصر مشيد أفلم يسيروا في الأرض فينظروا أفلم تسيروا في الأرض تكون لهم قلوب يعقلون بها وآذان يسمعون بها فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. Wake up to the reality, my brothers and sisters. And we call upon the Arab governments. We call upon the Arab leaders. Wake up. Wake up to what are you doing? You are portraying your own people, portraying your own ummah. The treaties you have signed with Israel, the peace treaties, the tatbir that you have done with Israel is doing unjust for you, for your own people, before it's doing unjust to the Palestinians who are living in the land of Palestine. The gas, the national gas, the Israeli government for the whole year. Wake up to the reality, my brothers and sisters. We need to have changes from within before we expect the change to come from outside. We need to stand up and demonstrate against our own governments and our own countries and say to them, enough is enough. Let's stand up for our rights. Let's stand up for our brothers and sisters. Let's stand up for the shrines of Islam, to the first Qibla and the third shrine of Islam after Masjid al-Haram and Masjid al-Nabawi. We need to make our voice vocally clear, and we need to do it in a peaceful manner. It's about time that you not ignore an email that will be sent to you to ask you to send and respond and stand for the justice and peace of others around you, whether it's the Palestinian cause or the Myanmar cause or any other causes. Let's also work and push our government as they have stood for the people of Myanmar and denounce the Chinese government's actions against the minority Muslims in China. We need them to do the same thing against the Israelis. And we're not discriminating against Jews. We're not discriminating against Israelis. We're discriminating and standing against the falsehood and against the human rights violation and the systematic the cleansing of the people from their own lands. We need to stand behind our organizations. Walillah alhamd, we had a meeting with NCCM, the National Council of Canadian Muslims. They're an organization of professionals who have, walillah alhamd, done a great job in standing up for the rights of the Muslims in the West in general. And they have successful stories. And it is our responsibility to support them, because we cannot expect them to keep doing, volunteering their work and doing the things that we all supposed to be doing. But we need to delegate, a group that will be delegated to do the job, the specific job, and we will stand behind it. They, walillah alhamd, have decided to hire a group or a team who will be dedicated to the issues, international issues. Among them, there is the Palestinian issue or the issues of Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. So I call upon every brother, every sister, every family, every masjid to stand behind NCCM so they're able to meet their budget, which is nothing compared to the budgets that are being spent in advocacy groups in this country and in the Western countries in general. We need to support them and say to them, Jazakumullah khairan for taking these initiatives. Have a professional to speak on our behalf. Have a professional to defend our rights. Have someone just to know how to screen the messages that are being sent out by the governments and prepare an adequate response to them, so that we can steer back our lovely country to the standing position that we believe in. Canada have developed a reputable stand by being a human rights advocate. We need not to smear this image in the general public, but rather we need to endorse it and say to our governments, go back to our Canadian values, go back to the values we believe in as Canadians, so that we can say proudly we're Canadians and we're standing behind our government, because our government is standing for the justice, the haq, the truth, not the individual rights, not the individual needs, not the individual's interests. We need to stand beyond and behind our individual interests and our love to positions in government, and to stand for the rights and the truth, because history will speak for you and will honor you and will recognize you. This is what we need to do. We need to also not undermine the power of dua. Wallahi, wallahi, by Allah Azza wa Jal, it has been the dua in the darkness of the night. In all parts of the world, what have made the difference to what happened to the people of Gaza? This lightly armed, who have been trying to send a message discreetly to the whole world, were able to stand for 11 days for the altares of the Israeli government, from the sea, from the land, from the air. We're talking about the most sophisticated weapons that are built in the superpower countries on the earth that have supported them. The F-17s, F-35s, the ships, the warships, the most sophisticated tanks. People are reporting to us right now in the news and saying, we have lived hell for 11 days. 11 days and night, we were not able to get sleep as a result of the shelling and artilleries that have been bombarding this small geographical area in Gaza. May Allah Azza wa Jal pour the patience on their hearts. PTSD is real. We know what it means as Canadians, and we don't think it matters for them. We just talk about them as being figures, as being them. We don't know that they're a human being. We don't know that the children who have lived this nightmare would be living with PTSD the rest of their life. We don't know that these innocent civilians who have lived and are living right now, staying in the schools, have no places to go back to and be able to live a normal life anymore after the livelihood were completely destroyed. And we continue to hear people saying Israel has the right to defend itself. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you, because you are endorsing the wrong actions of the Israeli government. You are asking the Israeli government with all its power and might to destroy the livelihood of children. If these children were to have a decent livelihood, they would not, or the people of Gaza were to have a decent livelihood to live and sustain their living with, they would not be standing and screaming and shouting. Does it need another Floyd for the whole world to wake up? May Allah have rahmah, and may Allah put the patience on those who are injured, and may Allah have rahmah on the children and the women of the Palestine and the West Bank, and may Allah protect the Masjid al-Aqsa, and may Allah have rahmah on all those innocents on the whole world who are struggling and trying to find a way to be able to live their life on this earth. Allahumma ameen wa qul qawli hadha.